Okay, a very good afternoon to Mr. Samso, the Eco Schools Program Coordinator, all teachers from Children's Academy Ashok, Nagar, Mumbai, and Sri Bestari Private School, and all the student participants from both schools. I'm Miss Connie here. Before we go further, it is such a big pleasure for me to welcome each and everyone present to our class-to-class virtual exchange on Climate Action Project 2021 between India and Malaysia.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
The topics that has been decided by both schools for discussion are topics on week 1 and week 2 of Climate Action Project, namely the causes and effects of climate change in the school respective country. During the virtual discussion later, 2 groups from each school will be presenting their findings on causes and effects of climate change in India and Malaysia respectively. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin this lovely and prestigious virtual exchange, let's sit back and enjoy a short introduction video on what is climate change.
Let's talk about climate change. Let's talk about climate change. People are calling it the crisis of our time, and it is.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate
Changes.
Climate
change.
But it's easy to get lost in this story. The science is dense and politics get in the way. World leaders are meeting in Madrid to talk about the climate crisis and how to slow it down. And they're under pressure from millions of people around the world calling for concrete action.
The empty promises are the same, and the inaction is the same.
So what exactly are we doing wrong, and how do we fix it? We're going to kick this off with some basic science, so bear with me, because this is important. Look at this graph. These are the levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere over hundreds of thousands of years. But this spike in carbon dioxide at the very end, that took off during the Industrial Revolution. We started breaking CO2 records in 1950, and we haven't stopped since. Why? Well, scientists say there's a 95% chance that human activity is the cause. We've been burning more and more fossil fuels like oil and coal, which release CO2, to power our homes, factories, airplanes, and cars. There's also a lot more of us. The global population has tripled in the past 70 years. And we're consuming more products from animals that release another pollutant called methane. So all those gases are released into the air, and when sunlight gets into the Earth's atmosphere, some of the heat gets trapped, and the planet gets warmer. That's why they call it the greenhouse effect. But the concern is not that the Earth is getting warmer. It's that it's happening far too quickly.
But it's actually the warmest temperature on Earth since the last ice age, since 10,000 years ago.
The UN says that right now, our world is about 1 degree hotter than pre-industrial times. That's around the year 1800, which is okay. In fact, the UN says if we warm by 1.5 degrees before the end of the century, we should be fine. The UN even says 2 degrees would probably be all right. But again, the problem is speed. Because right now, we're on track to hit 1.5 degrees in only 10 years. And if we don't slow that warming down, it could mean catastrophe within my lifetime, and maybe yours too. And we're already getting a taste.
Climate change is here. Climate change is happening. We are well into the 6th mass extinction event.
Europe is currently colder than the Arctic.
More than 1,000 people being rescued just in the early morning hours of Sunday.
Millions of people are likely to suffer worsening food
and water shortages.
Drought, which is now in its 10th year, is a phenomena that's here to stay.
We've never seen a year's worth of rain in less than 7 days.
Sea levels are rising about 3 millimeters a year because seawater expands as temperatures get warmer. Melting ice sheets and glaciers also add trillions of tons of fresh water into our oceans. People around the world are already losing their homes. And if things carry on, millions more of us will have to pack up too. Entire coastal cities could be underwater within 80 years, like Miami in the US or Osaka in Japan. Entire island nations in the Pacific could completely disappear.
Natural disasters becoming more and more intense, more frequent, with more devastating consequences. The dramatic impacts of drought in different parts of the world, all this is creating a situation that is a real threat to humankind, and we are not doing enough.
If 99% of doctors said to you, take this medicine or you will get really sick and probably die, you would take it. Who wouldn't take it? The problem is, at the moment, we don't have any medicine.
Now, there is a plan to slow all this down. Back in 2016, world leaders signed the so-called Paris Agreement. And the big pledge is to cap temperatures rising by 1.5 degrees or a maximum of 2 before the year 2100. So countries set their own targets on how much CO2 they emit. But here's the thing. 3 years after the agreement, global CO2 levels are still going up.
CO2 emissions have been going up the last year by 2%, so that's actually above the average of the last 10 years. So it's started to increase again, and it doesn't look too good.
In some ways, we're going backwards.
The United States will cease all implementation of the non-binding Paris Accord and the draconian financial and economic burdens the agreement imposes on our country.
The US, one of the world's biggest polluters, has pulled out of the Paris deal. Russia and China are accused of not giving themselves ambitious targets in the first place. Turkey and Poland want to build more power plants that use coal. And then there's the skeptics.
It's a political decision that there is man-made global warming.
We forced the computer models to say, human influence, CO2 and other stuff.
The ground-based temperature data has been massaged to show an increase, but the satellite data shows no increase.
On the other hand, there is positive momentum. There's more awareness, and some countries are making progress. India, Morocco, and the Gambia have massive renewable energy projects.
There are different countries doing things successfully. So some countries are, for example, making all public transport free in the cities. What a great way to encourage people out of their cars.
But experts say what's needed now is an even bigger push to change everything about the way we run our world.
Business as usual has got to change. Politics as usual has got to change. In order to combat that, we have to change the system that has allowed it to happen. You can't have infinite growth on a finite planet.
And everyone can do that by shifting to renewable energy, reducing the use of cars, use train more, cycle more, eat less meat, consume a bit more carefully.
So where does that leave us? Well, there's only so much bike riding and light bulb replacing that you and I can do every day. But the truth is that it's those everyday things that are going to change anyway. Even coffee could run out if farmers can't grow it. So the expert advice is that it's down to all of us to change our ways and shake things up, or climate change is gonna do it for us. If there's a story you want to get your head around,
now it's time for us to enjoy the slide presentation on causes and effects of climate change in both countries. We shall start with Group 1 from Children Academy Ashok, Nagar, Mumbai. Please welcome Prisha Gangaramani to start with her group's sharing. Please welcome.
Greetings to one and all present here. I am Prisha Gangaramani, a student of grade 10 from Children's Academy, which is in Mumbai, India. Today, I am going to speak about the work done by our school in order to create awareness and reverse the climate change. First of all, we discuss the difference between weather and climate. Weather is a condition of the atmosphere over a short period of time. On the other hand, climate is how the weather how the atmosphere changes over a long period of time and space. Weather can change within minutes or hours. However, climate is the average regional weather pattern over decades. Let's have a short quiz. I would be asking you questions related to weather and climate, and you have to answer them. Can we change the weather? Can the weather change during the same day?
Children, please raise your hand and answer. Kavinesh, unmute and answer, please.
Okay. During the same day, because change water means you like very cloud.
Krisha,
Yes.
please carry on.
Yes, the weather can change during the same day. The second question, will the weather tomorrow definitely be the same as it is today?
Ryan.
No, it won't be the same.
Yes, that's the right answer. It won't be the same. How would we know if the weather has changed?
Please raise your hand. Anybody would like to answer this? Krisha, you may answer this.
Yes, to know if the weather has changed, we have to look outside our window and check the temperature, and we can use other methods as well. The fourth question, if we have one cold summer, does that mean that our climate has changed?
Vedic.
No, not specifically, because it can be due to any other reasons too.
Yes, that's the right answer. Climate takes decades to change, and it cannot change with one summer. Next question, can the climate change each day?
Ryan.
No, it can't change each day.
Yes, the climate cannot change each day. How could we measure if the climate was changing?
Vedic.
If over decades there is a repetitive, we notice that there are changes, then we can say that the climate has changed.
Yes, we need to measure the trend, and then we can say that the climate has changed. The last question, how would we know if the climate has changed?
Anybody else would like to answer? Okay, Vedic.
From the results of the averages taken during all those years of research, it happens after a specific amount of years, such as decades.
So we can know that the climate has changed when the weather gets warmer, and the places that receive rain and snow, the rain and snow depletes year by year. So according to NASA, climate change is a change in the usual weather found in the place. This could be a change in how much rain a place usually gets in a year, or it could be a change in a place's usual temperature for a month or a season. Climate change is also a change in Earth's climate. This could be a change in Earth's usual temperature, or it could be a change in where rain and snow usually fall on Earth. Weather can change in just a few hours. Climate takes hundreds or even millions of years to change. We also discussed the causes that contribute to climate change. We have a few of them listed here. Natural causes that lead to climate change are changes in the Earth's orbit, solar variations, volcanic eruptions, ocean currents, and internal climate variability. While the anthropogenic causes that lead to climate change are fossil fuels, which are used in transport, industries, and urbanization, the agriculture, which includes animal digestion, usage of manure and soil management, and land use changes, which includes deforestation, upsetting grasslands and croplands. Burning of fossil fuels. We all are heavily dependent on fossil fuels for the generation of power. It is useful, but at the same time, it releases harmful and toxic gases into the atmosphere, which causes global warming and climate change. We also discussed about the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, dinitrogen oxide, and other gases, which lead to climate change. Climate change in turn leads to droughts, floods, cyclones, heat waves, cold waves, and coastal inundation. Climate change affects all the spheres of life severely, and they also threaten the rural livelihoods. Industrialization. Rapid industrialization is essential for the economic growth of the country, but it has cons too. When industries use conventional sources of energy, harmful gases are released into the atmosphere, which fosters climate change. Urbanization includes growth of cities, which is possible only if we have sufficient land area. Humans have been slashing trees on a large scale in order to satisfy their needs. Trees are very essential as they play a vital role in the reversal of climate change. Thus, by cutting the trees, the human alters the structure of Earth. The greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is the process of warming the Earth when greenhouse gases entrap the sun's energy and do not let it escape. This increases the temperature and modifies the climate over a long period of time. Addition of fertilizers may lead to emission of harmful chemicals into the air. Fertilizers may also increase salinity of soil, which affects the food chain. Deforestation or cutting of trees leads to removal of natural air purifiers, which affects the air quality. We also held a brief discussion on carbon cycle. Carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere via combustion and respiration. The decomposition of organic matter in turn leads to formation of fossils and fossil fuels over long periods of time. And this is how the cycle goes on and on. Photosynthesis is a process which is vital for the reversal of climate change and improving the air quality. The plants, they absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen into the air. Oxygen gas is vital for all human beings. This is a glimpse of the discussion that was held in our class. Thank you.
Thank you, Group 1. Whoa, that was a wonderful sharing. Okay, and next, please welcome Vaidik Ruparel, who is representing Group 2 from Children's Academy, Ashok, Nagar, Mumbai. Please welcome.
Hello, yes, I'm Vaidik Ruparel. Yes, I hope you can see my full screen PPT.
Yes, we can see.
Yes. So I will be explaining the effects of climate change. As my friend Krisha has now explained the causes, we know that what causes this climate change. So first of all, there is a temperature rise of about 4 degrees Celsius annually, which causes so many other impacts. 7 million deaths happen from air pollution, 250,000 deaths from diseases can happen by 2030. Climate change also affects our food safety. Waterborne diseases are more prone. Climate change causes relocation of whole towns due to rise in sea levels. Diseases will spread due to higher temperatures and more wars to gain access to limited resources. There are health problems such as respiratory issues, infectious diseases, and weather related mortality. In coastal areas, there is erosion of beaches, inundation of coastal lands, additional costs to protect coastal communities, and many more problems too. Potential climate change impacts health, agriculture, forests, water resources, and aquatic life. Here is a statistical data knowledge. Average temperature rises by 2 degrees Celsius, which is a prediction, 1 to 4 degrees Celsius at extreme ranges. Lower frequency of rainy days, increased intensity. Even the storms, by frequency they are low, but their intensity is increased, hence there is more damage caused. And there is a 1.3 millimeter per year rise on an average in sea level. For example, an extremely wet monsoon that occurs once in 100 years may occur every 10 years by the end of this century. Kolkata and Mumbai are vulnerable to extreme river floods, which are cities in India, intense tropical cyclones, rising sea levels, and high temperatures. Some 63 million people may no longer be able to meet their caloric demand. Here is a chart that in detail explains how climate change affects so many different points, which in turn affects the agricultural productivity. This is the impact of global warming in our water cycle. Now, we at Children's Academy, Ashok Nagar, believe that saving the environment is no longer a choice, instead, it is a necessity. Hence, we adopt various projects and carry out multiple activities in order to inculcate the feeling of responsibility towards the environment among students. We introduce solar panels, and our entire school works on the electrical energy generated by these panels. We introduce a system of rainwater harvesting, which will also help to increase groundwater level and save water. Vermicompost, we have managed to recycle more than 200 kgs of biodegradable waste into pure black gold. We struggled in the beginning, but soon we were able to harvest around 20 kgs of vermicompost every 2 months. There are some pictures of our students engaged in making different vermicomposts. Sapling plantation, we led plantation drives in our locality and planted many different herbs like pudina and ajwain in our school too. On open house days, we give our parents plant saplings. Paper bag creation and distribution. Paper bag making started off as a means to teach children to make their own bags, which would substitute plastic bags. But later, we distributed them among the local vendors. We also taught more children to make cloth bags and inspired our Mauchis to use these cloth bags. Bioenzyme, it is an organic substance that quicken decomposition and help to get stains off any surface. Hence, we made an eco-friendly cleaner. Recycling MLP and Tetra packs. The MLP waste, being light in nature, easily gets dispersed with wind and water, which can cause many problems to our ecosystem. Hence, we recycle the MLPs and Tetra packs. We created awareness. We went on many rallies and carried out many campaigns, led anti-plastic drives, no car day. All of this was done by our Science and Avishkar Club. We inspired paper recycling, wherein we used old used papers to make new blank pages and used them on our school boards and for children to make many projects. Save the Birds is an organization. Their work has been appreciated by Pramerica Awards and they have won a cash prize of 50,000 rupees. Bottle for Change was an initiative by Bisleri where we recycled many Bisleri bottles. We were also awarded a certificate for the same. Hamara Bharat Swachh Bharat was our motto of our Swachhata Club. We took children to keep the streets clean and the vicinity of the school clean too. Tata Power Club Energy. Here we taught our children to save energy. We made visits to Sri Ravi Shankar Vidya Mandir School, which is an underprivileged school in Dharavi, Mumbai. All in all, we at Children's Academy Ashok Nagar believe that, as I said earlier too, this is now a necessity and no more our own choice that we want to save the earth or not. We have to do this, and hence we are getting better at it. We are making our best to save the earth, and we inspire others to do the same too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Group 2. And next, let's welcome Group 3 from Sri Bestari Private School. Please welcome Kirtana and the group members to share their findings.
A very good afternoon and namaste to Mr. Shamsul, the Eco Schools Program Coordinator.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Teacher, the screen is still being shared. I can't share the screen.
Maybe Mr. Vaidik, you can stop sharing. Okay. All right, Group 3, you may proceed.
Sorry about just now. I'll continue, okay? A very good afternoon and namaste to Mr. Shamsul, the Eco Schools Program Coordinator, all teachers from Children's Academy Ashok Nagar, Mumbai, Sri Bestari Private School, and all the student participants. My name is Kirtana, together with my teammates Imelda, Jay, and Zahana. We are from Sri Bestari Private School, and we're going to present to all of you the causes and effects of climate change in Malaysia. Let's start off with the definition of climate change, shall we? Climate change, in its easiest definition, is the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. It's a global problem and it affects everything on Earth. Now that we know what climate change is, what causes it? Well, there are many things that contribute to it. One of the few examples are fossil fuel burning. Since fossil fuels such as oil, gas, and coal are all found underground, burning them releases the carbon dioxide stored within them. Another example is deforestation. Since trees use and store carbon dioxide, getting rid of them doesn't really benefit any of us. And burning them down is even worse because that releases more carbon dioxide into the environment. Agriculture is also one of its main reasons. Yes, you heard me right. Rearing animals releases methane, which is even more dangerous than carbon dioxide. Fertilizers also release nitrous oxide, which is even more worse than methane. Lastly, waste, primarily plastic waste, from food products or any other plastic-made products, creates an even more deadlier greenhouse effect when they're burnt, which increases the amount of already existing carbon dioxide. Thus, to avoid this, waste management is highly encouraged. Now, it's time to watch a video about climate change so you can better understand it.
As the sun's rays reach the Earth's surface, some are absorbed and re-emitted as heat. Greenhouse gases such as water vapor and carbon dioxide absorb and re-radiate some of this heat. Increased amounts of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere mean more heat is trapped, warming the Earth. Human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels, have increased concentrations of atmospheric carbon dioxide by 40%, mainly since 1900. Global average surface temperature has increased by 0.8 degrees Celsius over that time. Other changes to the climate in recent decades can be seen in the warming of the oceans, a rise in sea level, decreasing snow and ice cover in the northern hemisphere, and a decline in sea ice in the Arctic. If emissions continue unchecked, then further warming of 2.6 to 4.8 degrees Celsius would be expected by the end of this century. Even at the low end, this would have serious implications for human societies and the natural world. For more information about climate change from leading science academies, please visit royalsociety.org/climatechange or nas-sites.org/America's Climate Choices.
Effects of climate change. Temperature. Malaysia relatively has uniform temperatures throughout the year, with mean temperatures in the lowlands ranges between 26 degrees Celsius and 28 degrees Celsius. Although the annual variation of the daily mean temperature may be small, which is about 2 degrees Celsius to 3 degrees Celsius, the diurnal variation may be as large as 12 degrees Celsius. By 2050, projections show that Malaysia is going to be hotter with the temperature rise up to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Heavy rainfall. Malaysia shows an increasing trend as opposed to the decreasing trend in peninsular Malaysia. Most regions in East Malaysia experience an increase of up to 100 mm in rainfall during the two periods. Highest increase in rainfall between the periods was up to 200 mm recorded in southeast Sabah. Human health. Climate change affects the human health through a range of direct or indirect exposures through extreme events of fire, flooding, and heat waves. Working in hot environments increases the risk of health problems and the ability to perform work tasks. This increases accident risk and, if prolonged, lead to heat exhaustion or even heat stroke. In conclusion, I would like to say climate change affects the earth and everyone in it. So remember, guys, Earth's never going to give us up and will never let us down. So we better not run around and desert it.
Thank you, Kitana, Imelda, Jay, and Shahanas. And last but not least, please welcome Group 4 from Sri Bestari Private School. Please welcome Wing Sing and the group members to share their findings.
A very good afternoon to Mr. Samso, the Eco School Program Coordinator, all the teachers from Children's Academy, Ashok, Nagar, Mumbai, and Sri Bestari Private School, and all the student participants. Hi, my name is Lee Wing Sing, and today, Kaijin, Rishi, and I from Sri Bestari Private School will be presenting to you all the causes and effects of climate change in Malaysia.
What is climate change? Climate change is changing the pattern of weather, oceans, land surfaces, and ice sheets, occurring over time scales of decades or longer. Climate change has become a global environmental issue which dominates the international agenda and one of the most challenging issues for mankind. Climate change in Malaysia. Malaysia could be considered as a free zone from climate-related disaster, but it has experienced several extreme weathers and climate events ranging from thunderstorms to monsoon floods over the past years. What causes climate change? Open burning, deforestation, burning of fossil fuel, dispersion of smoke, dispersion of carbon dioxide.
Potential effects of climate change in Malaysia can cause sea levels rising, reduced crop yields, greater disease among forest species, biodiversity loss, erosion of shorelines, increased flood intensities, coral reef bleaching, and tidal inundation of coastal areas. Do's and don'ts to prevent climate change are use more public transportation such as buses and trains, start using electrical or hybrid vehicles, and encourage usage of reusable products such as stainless steel straws and cups. Apart from those, we should plant more trees, save water and electricity, use reusable energy such as solar or wind energy, and lastly, recycle. Don'ts are open fires and illegal deforestation. As summary, we will present this video to better understand climate change in Malaysia.
Climate change. It's real, it's serious, and it's up to us to solve it. In the last 2 decades, we've experienced 14 of the hottest 15 years on record.
By 2050, drought and chronic water shortages could impact 1 billion people, while millions more will be at risk from coastal flooding. It can seem overwhelming, but there's reason for hope. If we embrace solar and wind power to their full potential, we can cut the world's yearly carbon emissions by 1/3. Already, Germany generates 27% of its electricity from renewables, with a goal of 80% by 2050. Denmark has shown it can produce more wind energy than it can use, and England is building the world's biggest offshore wind farm. Communities large and small are taking steps. A new public building in Mexico City has an exterior that breaks down air pollutants, erasing the effects of 1,000 cars each day. Paris installed street tiles that harvest energy from foot traffic. Other cities are paving streets with smog-eating concrete and sidewalks with recycled materials. Individuals can make a difference too, through the choices we make every day. If every American driver drove 10 miles less each week, it could eliminate more than 100 billion pounds of carbon from the air each year. New innovations are making important strides possible, and more are on the way, but we can't wait. Reimagining our world's energy future will take a shared sense of urgency from countries, companies, cities, and all of us. Working together, real change is possible. Learn more at natgeo.com/climate.
In conclusion, Earth's climate has changed over the past century. The atmosphere and oceans have warmed, sea levels have risen, and glaciers and ice sheets have decreased in size. Therefore, we humans should try our best to prevent climate change as much as possible. Anyways, thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Vincent, Rishi, and Kaijin. We hope everyone enjoyed the group presentation on causes and effects of climate change in both countries. A big round of applause again to all the presenters. To conclude this virtual exchange, let's sit back and enjoy a short film on climate change.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is 50% higher than it was in 1900. And not only are we piling in more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but we are chopping down the forests of the earth at a great rate. And the forests themselves are the most efficient consumers of carbon dioxide that there are on Earth. We're going to destroy the ground because the soil of a rainforest isn't very good. We are actually tampering with the climate of the Earth and with the very atmosphere that we breathe. When we talk about the disappearance of the ozone layer, we don't know what will happen when the ozone layer goes. The world has become so fragile that we cannot subject the Earth to the tortures we can now inflict upon it. When we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about something that affects the entire Earth. And these problems are life and death problems. They go to the root of the viability of the planet itself. if there's one thing that is biologically certain about the human species, is that it is a human species, one species.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter. Simply put, if we don't protect nature, we can't protect ourselves.
The only way we can solve a problem is by a human solution. Never can we sit back and wait for miracles to save us. Miracles don't happen. Sweat happens. Efforts happens. Thought happens.
In conclusion, it is crucial that we understand the adverse effects climate change has on our planet and rectify our mode of living. Taking care of our environment is the responsibility of every individual in the globe to provide a habitable place for future generations. Green living is one of the best ways to save the planet and to conserve our natural resources. If we don't take charge of our action and continue destroying our environment, nature will surely hit back. That's not a secret anymore. Climate change quote to share here: the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them doing without doing anything, as quoted by Albert Einstein. With that, this marked the end of our class-to-class virtual exchange on climate action project. We would like to thank everyone present today for coming to witness this pleasant class-to-class virtual exchange. Let's have a group photo, shall we? Please look to our device camera and smile. Okay, on the count of 3, maybe students, you can on your camera. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, smile. Hold on. Okay, maybe one more. Okay, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, hold on. All right. Thank you, everyone. That's all from me. Thank you and see you all again soon. Remember to stay safe and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, teachers.
Thank you, Miss
Thank you.
Lee.
Thank you, teachers.
Thank you,
Thank you
Miss
all. Bye.
Crowley. Bye, Bade.